Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. This podcast isn't legal advice. The Florida Bar Association says I have to say that, so I've said it. But nothing will ever prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Now, I've done carrier-specific episodes about every major disability carrier you'll find in the United States. That being said, disability carriers are always operating with the mindset of making a profit and not providing you with the disability benefits you deserve. Today, I'm going to cover more UNUM-specific cases. Though if you're insured with another carrier, I think you're still going to find useful information here. I'm going to talk about how disability carriers like UNUM can't add eligibility requirements after the fact. Does UNUM and Paul Revere Life use quotas in denying claims? And I'll tell you the story of how one court upholds the denial of an immunocompromised UNUM policyholder and lessons you can learn. First, let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. Does UNUM and Paul Revere Life use quotas in denying disability claims? Now, I'm often asked this question. Do disability carriers like UNUM or Paul Revere Life or Lincoln or Liberty, New York Life, do these disability carriers use quotas for its disability claims team? And as a result, if they do use quotas, do they terminate claims just for the sake of meeting quotas or getting rewards? In fact, one disability carrier infamously had pizza parties when the disability claims team met their quota for terminations or what they call claim savings. Now, UNUM does have a history of using quotas for its disability claim teams, and they communicate that goal along with the approximate value of the reserves for individual claims to the claims handling personnel. Now, what is a reserve? An insurance company is required to set aside a certain amount of money to pay a portion of a claim, and it's called a reserve. So the money's there if the money is needed to pay the claim. And of course, many times premiums are used or set based on reserving criteria. So the reserves can impact not only a carrier's profit or losses and can also impact the premium. But there is evidence that UNUM never corrected these wrongdoings after being penalized as part of a multi-state agreement that it entered into with a number of attorney generals. Based on my experience, I would tell you that they continue to use financial metrics, including metrics in the claims department. In my experience and in my mind, the financial department does influence the decision to deny claims and to terminate claims that have been paid for years. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter what the carrier is. I will tell you again, based on my experience, they use financial metrics to make disability decisions. Now, what will happen, of course, is that the disability carrier or the plan will say, look, there's a wall, a Chinese wall between the claims administration and the carrier's financial department. There is a clear conflict of interest when a claims administrator or a plan both determine whether the policyholder is eligible for benefits and then pays the benefits out of its pocket, right hand and left hand. The courts are really clear that when a plan administrator or an insurance carrier is operating under a conflict of interest, that conflict of interest has to be considered in determining if a denial should be overturned by the court. But I will tell you that courts have ruled that the conflict is less important when the administrator has taken active steps to reduce potential bias and to promote accuracy. For example, walling off claims administrators from those who are interested in the firm's finances, or imposing management checks that penalize inaccurate decision-making, irrespective of whom the inaccuracy benefits. Now, this is a clear question of bias, and of course, generally don't take lightly the potential problems of having anyone in the benefit department knowing what the financial goals are. The reality is that that's exactly what happens. Many disability carriers, including UNUM and Paul Revere, pretend that there's a wall between the claims administrator and the financial department, and they'll make that representation to the court. In fact, discovery has shown that the claims management department is really well aware of the financial goals, including denials and terminations. Now, the individual adjuster may not know the specific goal, but the supervisor and the claims department manager knows. Don't you think that knowing that information will influence how a claims manager or supervisor manages the adjuster in the claims handling process and making decisions as to whether to pay benefits or to continue benefits? There are some courts who, unfortunately, I think are naive about what actually happens in a disability insurance carrier or a disability plan administrator office. They buy the argument that there's a wall between the claims administrator and the financial department. But the reality is there isn't. And we all know that disability carriers are in the business of making money for themselves and their shareholders. You can just look at the quarterly reports issued by disability carriers like UNUM and Paul Revere, crowing about their profitability. And one way to profitability is to deny claims and terminate benefits. That's disability carrier and plan strategy for claims denial 101. Let's take a break.